So TCL is buying Sony. That is a crazy news. So there's been a lot of speculations online, but first I think it's best to clear up the air. TCL is only buying the home audio and TV segment of Sony. That is kind of a relief because we all know Sony has built some serious reputation, and I personally am a Sony fan. I've observed something about most of these Japanese manufacturers. They all have this durability thing in common, and if you look at Sharp, Toshiba, Panasonic, they all follow the same trend. They have low volume, high quality. They don't manufacture in large volume, but when they manufacture, it lasts. I mean, I can recall a particular Sony DVD, or was it a CD? I think it was a VCD, and it came with this game 300 um, compact disc together with a gamepad. I think that was towards the early 2000s, and up till date, this particular VCD still functions perfectly well. But I can also recall an LG DVD that I bought around the 2010s. That DVD lasted probably 4 or 5 years maximum. So that kind of tells you the difference between the Japanese manufacturers. Okay, I can recall another example, which is a Sharp TV that I got around the late 90s. Now, that particular Sharp TV is still functional till date. On the contrast side, I can recall an LG TV. The first set of LG CRT TVs that were kind of marketed like they were flat screened, but they were not really flat screened. They were actually CRT TVs. That particular TV didn't last up to 5 years. It got bad. So there's a different design language between these North Korean manufacturers and the Japanese manufacturers. Japanese design their products to last longer, and the Korean guys kind of leverage everything on price and then try to break the market, undercut the Japanese guys, and then push large volume of this product into the market at a very, very affordable price. Although it has helped most of us to acquire appliances which we should on a regular basis not be able to afford that much, that's the advantage of the North Korean approach. And that's kind of a good thing. That's kind of a good thing. But you also need to bear in mind that you then have to replace these appliances like every 5 years interval or every 10 years interval because the manufacturing is not so great in the aspect of durability. So that is where Sony is just so great. I don't really care if they use the latest tech. I'm talking about my personal opinion right now. I don't really care if they use the latest tech. I don't really care if they have some of the new marketing buzzwords. And these things are just jargons. We unpack most of them on this channel. I mean, these marketing languages are mostly jargons. Sony products are very durable, and honestly, I'm really skeptical about this news. It's a scary one for me, especially, and it could be the same for most Sony fans. But however, Sony has been more of an assembly company than a manufacturer. Okay, I think I have to explain this in detail. You see, Sony doesn't really manufacture their display. That's kind of a popular news now. And most Sony displays, especially in the area of OLED, are either done by LG, the QLEDs done by Samsung. Sony doesn't really manufacture most of their hardware. They do contract manufacturing with some other brands that has strength in most of these other areas. So they bring it all together and then they take care of the build, which is where the whole durability thing comes in, and they still do it perfectly well. And in a nutshell, TCL has already been working with Sony even before now, before the whole big announcement thing. Most of the parts for Sony TVs have been done by TCL already. However, Sony owns the processing. Sony does the image processing themselves, and it's obvious that that particular image processing always stands out on most Sony TVs. You would know that there is just something special about this display, despite the hardware limitations that might erupt from the contract manufacturers Sony is working with. So TCL has been a manufacturing partner with Sony even before now. Also, TCL has already signed a joint venture MOU. But here's the good news about this. Sony would be retaining their name on most of these products. And that's a relief because that reputation of durability means a lot, especially for people who already trust Sony, or people who has trusted Sony over the years. I mean, I'm recording right now with a Sony camera, and it's been really fun using most of Sony products, even though I remain unbiased with my opinion when doing my professional reviews and all. So it's in MOU stage, it's not yet finalized. A lot of changes can still occur. So TCL will be taking the majority share of this joint venture at 51% ownership, while Sony will maintain a smaller portion of it at 49% ownership. But Sony would still be supplying the brand name, the reputation, and everything they've built over the years on the Bravia lineup in terms of home audio and TVs. So, should we really be worried about this? Let me tell you my personal fears. I am really concerned about seeing the Chinese style of manufacturing. By the way, I talked about Japanese manufacturers and I talked about Korean manufacturers. What I didn't mention, however, is Chinese manufacturers, talking about people like Hisense and TCL. That is where TCL falls in, okay? These are Chinese manufacturers. And of course, we don't need to say much on this because you know the China guys. They are more like high volume, low cost style of manufacturing. We've seen Hisense products undercut a whole lot of our manufacturers, including the South Korean guys like Samsung and LG. So my personal worry about this is seeing the Chinese style of manufacturing encroach into Sony's TV and audio lineup. Although I doubt that is going to happen, I think what will happen instead is that we're going to see TCL TVs and TCL audio systems begin to improve because we know the Chinese guys, they are the masters of replication. I mean, these people learn really, really fast. They adapt to markets really, really fast and they improve really, really fast. So I think TCL is also going to learn from Sony and improve most of their products. So we might end up seeing an improvement on TCL's lineup for TVs and sound systems instead. So while we're worried about Sony's durability reputation going down, we should also be anticipating seeing TCL's durability and quality of manufacturing go up as well. We should also be anticipating TCL penetrating the premium TV space. It's been mostly dominated by Sony and a little bit of LG and Samsung, but mostly Sony. Sony has done very well on premium TVs, not just on marketing jargons like the Korean guys. Yeah, and for most people, that might be the only reason why Sony survived the invasion of the Chinese guys, talking about Hisense and TCL, and the North Korean guys as well, talking about LG and Samsung and all. And yeah, they've done pretty well in the premium space. Also, we have to admit that TCL is richer than Sony, specifically talking about the TV space and the home audio space. TCL is way bigger than Sony. They have better experience in manufacturing hardware, especially in terms of displays. And they come up with the mini LED, and it was great. And now everyone's looking at RGB mini LED. And Sony might just be left behind in this new craze of RGB mini LED. So I believe they had to do something, and they had to do something quick in order to stay in business, or they might just end up like BlackBerry. Anyway, fingers crossed, we hope to see improvement from both sides. Also, that reminds me of the Afila project, which is also a similar joint venture between Sony and Honda. So while Sony takes care of the electronics parts, Honda takes care of the mechanical parts. They both bring their experiences, and at the end of the day, the consumers have great products to play around with. And here's the second good news: Sony TVs might also become more affordable. I mean, we saw what happened with the Bravia Mark IIs in terms of the pricing. The pricing was extremely high. That's probably because of the low volume manufacturing model of the Japanese guys. So, with TCL's infrastructure, expertise, and manufacturing capabilities, we should be seeing Sony TVs come down in price because they will be able to manufacture in large scale and really compete very well with the Chinese and the South Korean Samsung and LGs. So, operation of this new venture is expected to begin around April, which is the same period where most of the CES TVs are going to be released into the market. We anticipate to see this new venture do well, and we hope to review some of the products that they will be dishing out. We could call it the new Sony or whatever works. But personally, I hope to see Sony's quality live on and Sony's durability live on. I mean, there's a peace we feel when we buy a Sony product. I just have to mention that. It's not a sponsored video, but it's my personal opinion. I hope to see that continue. I hope this venture does well for both companies. And boy, am I relieved that the Sony name is still there. Yeah, that's all we know for now. I'm Justin. Bye bye.